What's up, YouTube? This is the 82 and 0 podcast. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Dirk Nowitzky. Now, Dirk Nowitzky was born June 19th, 1978. He was born in Würzburg, West Germany, or just known as Germany. Now, his father was a very athletic man, and so was his mother. His mother, Helga, was a professional basketball player, and his father, Jörg, that was his dad's name, was a handball player who represented Germany at the highest international level. His older sister described Dirk as very competitive. And Dirk was always very tall as a child. Most of the time he stood above his peers by a foot or more. He initially wanted to play tennis. He managed to become ranked junior tennis player in Germany youth circuit, but grew tired of being called a freak for his height, and so he would turn to basketball. After joining the local DJK Würzburg, the 15-year-old attracted the attention of former German international basketball player Holger Grezweidner, who spotted his talent immediately and offered to coach him individually 2 or 3 times per week. After getting both of the approval of Nowitzky's parents, Gershweidner put his student through an unorthodox training scheme. He emphasized shooting and passing exercise and shunned weightlifting and weight training and unnecessary friction. Furthermore, Gershweidner encouraged Dirk Nowitzky to play musical instruments, to read literature, to make a more complete personality. And I think this would have a profound impact on his career because he was always a great outside shooter as a big. After a year as the coach, Nowitzky's progress would improve, and he became one of the best players in Germany. So he'd play with the DJK Würzburg. He joined them in 1994, and he would play in Germany's second-tier level league. It's like a South Division there. You gotta understand, over there, they have 2 division basketball leagues. His first trainer was Pitt Stahl, who played the tall teenager as an outside scoring forward rather than an inside scoring center. In 94-95, the DJK finished with a disappointing 6 of 12 teams. As a rookie, Nowitzky was often benched because he struggled with bad school grades, which forced him to study rather than work on his game. In the next 95-96 season, Nowitzky established himself as a starter next to Finnish star forward Martti Karusma. So he'd have a great international career. And this is a great time because the NBA was no longer, could you deny, is global, especially after the 92 Olympics. In the 96-97 season, Nowitzky averaged 19.4 points per game and led DJK to second place after the regular season, but could not help his team gain promotion. The following 97-98 season, Nowitzky finished his German A level, but had to do compulsory military service, which lasted from September 1st, 1997 to June 30th, 1998. The 18-year-old, who had grown to 6 feet 11, made progress, leading DJK to a 36-4 point total in German victory, 2 points and and 2 losses. So we gotta understand, during this time there wasn't a lot of players from Germany. One that comes to mind for me is Detlef Schrempf, and he was starting to get noticed by basketball scouts. And one thing that helped him is when he participated in the Nike Hoop Heroes Tour, where he played against NBA stars like Charles Barkley and Scottie Pippen. In a 30-minute show match, Nowitzky outplayed Barkley and even dunked on him, causing him to exclaim, This boy is a genius. If he wants to enter the NBA, he can call me. On March 29, 1998, Nowitzky was chosen to play in the Nike Hoop Summit. One of the premier talents watches in U.S. men's basketball. In a match between U.S. talents and international talents, Nowitzky scored 33 points on 6 of 12 shooting, 14 rebounds, and 3 steals. And he outplayed future NBA stars like Rashard Lewis and Al Harrington. He impressed with a combination of quickness, ball handling, and a shooting range. And this is when every single European club and NBA club wanted to recruit him. And, you know, guys like, I'm going to bring up Jerry Krause, for example, the Bulls GM. He would go over and draft Tony Kukoc internationally. So this is starting to be like a gold mine of finding players from overseas. And so he would declare for the 1998 draft. And he was projected to be the 7th pick. He passed up a lot of college offers because there was a lot of colleges in the U.S. that wanted him. And he decided to just go straight to the pros. And it's kind of unfortunate because many people might not actually know this. It was the Milwaukee Bucks who drafted him, not the Dallas Mavericks. So he was taken with the 9th pick in the 1998 draft by the Milwaukee Bucks. But the Bucks would trade him right there on draft night to the Dallas Mavericks for Robert Traylor. Think about how stupid of a trade that is in hindsight. You know? Could you imagine Dirk Nowitzky playing on the Bucks with Ray Allen, Sam Cassell, Glenn Robinson? That'd be crazy. But he plays his rookie season in Dallas. Nothing too special right away. He put up 8 points per game, and he only shot 40% from the field. And I remember reading somewhere that he was wanting to quit the NBA his first season. He struggled quite a bit. And his shooting splits weren't very good. And you got to keep in mind that prior to him joining the Dallas Mavericks haven't made a playoff run, or a playoff push, I should say. They hadn't had a run since 1990. Their second best player, their first best, which would later become second best, was Michael Finley. And they had Sean Bradley there at center. And Cedric Ceballos was there. And this was the lockout season of 98-99, which put the entire season in jeopardy. And think about it like this, right? Dirk is a rookie trying to get some experience, and the league is shut down, and they only played 50 games that year, so he wasn't able to get the attention he needed from coaching staff and trainers right away. And he played the power forward. And he struggled immensely right away because he wasn't a good defender and he wasn't very strong yet. They were able to push him around pretty easily. And the Dallas Mavericks would only win 19 games that year. They'd go 19-31. And like I said, he thought about retiring, but the Dallas Mavericks had a really good owner. On January 4th, 2000, the team owner, Ross Perot, the guy who ran for president, sold the Mavericks to internet billionaire Mark Cuban for $280 million. Cuban quickly invested into the Mavericks, restructured the franchise, and he would attend every single home game. And I gotta say, Cuban's up there to me as one of the best owners. He really cares about his team. He wants them to win. Other billionaires, they just want to make money. It's not so much about winning. And he bought the team a $46 million private jet. He put $100 million into revenues. And he believed in Dirk Nowitzky, Mark Cuban did. He knew he was going to be something special. And Dirk Nowitzky would win Most Improved Player, putting up 17.5 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, and 2.5 assists per game. And he was voted he was the runner-up to Most Improved Player. He just narrowly lost it to Jalen Rose. And he would make an All-Star appearance, his first All-Star appearance in 2001-2002. So pretty slow start for him in those first couple of years. But, he'd go from 8 points in the rookie season to 17 points in the second season, 21 in the third, 23 in the fourth, and then eventually 25 in 02-03. So every year he just kept improving, and along with his shooting splits. And they started building a really good team around him. Prior to the 01-02 season, Nowitzki signed a 6-year, $90 million contract extension, which made him the second highest German athlete after Michael Schumacher. He continued to improve, like I said, getting up to 23.4 points per game, 9.9 rebounds per game, 2.4 assists per game. Nowitzki was voted to the All-NBA second team and go to his first All-Star game, and they'd make the playoffs with a 57-25 record. The Mavericks swept Kevin Garnett and the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round. Nowitzki had a really good series, putting up 33.3 points per game. In the second round, the Mavericks were faced off against the Sacramento Kings, which had a great power forward in Chris Webber. After splitting the first two games, the Kings coach Rick Adelman changed his defensive scheme, assigning Hedo Turkoglu to cover Nowitzki. Turkoglu would use his agility to play Nowitzki tightly. And this would be really effective because, like in Game 3, for example, the Mavericks lost 125-119. Nowitzki would only have 19 points. And by Game 5, the Mavericks were eliminated. Now, I want to mention the team that was getting better. They had Steve Nash on this team, and this is before his breakout in Phoenix. He was still an all-star, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't the MVP caliber yet. And they had Michael Finley. So it was a dark horse contender in the Western Conference back then. And before the 02-03 season, Don Nelson and Mark Cuban put more emphasis on the defense. Because, come on, Steve Nash and Dirk are not very good defenders. So they'd get good defenders around them like Rafe Lafretz and Sean Bradley. So they would have a really great year. And Nowitzki would lift his averages to 25.1 points per game, putting up 9.9 rebounds per game, and the Mavericks would have a franchise high of 60 and 22, which earned them the third seed right after the Portland Trailblazers. They were faced up with the Portland Trailblazers. And now the first round is a best-of-7 series. Before then, it was a best-of-5. And the Mavericks won their first 3 games, but then completely lost their rhythm in the next 3. And in Game 7, Nowitzki hit a clutch 3 to make it 100-94 with 121 left. And then the Mavericks would win 107-95. That was the most important basket of my career, is what Nowitzki would say. And I want to mention they go to the Western Conference Finals, and they're matched up with the San Antonio Spurs. And in Game 3, Nowitzki went up for a rebound against the Spurs guard Manu Ginobili, and he would hurt his knee, forcing him to miss the rest of the series. And I don't like to put asterisks on championships, but you kind of have to wonder. The series went to 6 games without Dirk. Imagine if they had Dirk. Could they have went to the finals and won it? You never know. So, after the 03-04 season, Dallas traded Ray of the Freds to Boston for Antonio Walker. Nelson decided to start Nowitzki at center. And Nowitzki would put on 20 pounds of muscle over the summer. He lost some of his agility because of this. But he wanted to improve his defense. And he did somewhat improve his defense. He'd average 1.3 blocks per game, 1.2 steals per game. He got All-NBA third and an All-Star appearance, and they'd have a 52-30 record. And they were matched up against the Sacramento Kings in the playoffs, but they were eliminated in 5 games. So, at this point, it looks like the Mavericks franchise has fallen apart. Before the 04-05 season, the Mavericks retooled again. They got rid of Steve Nash. I shouldn't say they got rid of him, they just let him walk, which Mark Cuban later says he regrets. And Steve Nash would have a breakout year and win MVP over with the Phoenix Suns. And Don Nelson would resign, and the new head coach would be Avery Johnson. And in the midst of all these changes, Nowitzki stepped up his game even more. 26.1 points per game, which was his career high at this point. 9.7 rebounds, 1.5 blocks, 3.1 assists per game. On December 2nd, 2004, Nowitzki scored 53 points in an overtime win against the Houston Rockets, a career best. Nowitzki was voted to the All-NBA first team for the first time. He also placed third in the MVP race, behind Nash and Shaquille O'Neal. However, the Mavericks didn't do too well in the 2005 playoffs. Again, in the first round, they matched up against the Houston Rockets, Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming. The Rockets took a 2-0 series lead before the Mavericks won the next 3 games in a row. After losing Game 6, Dallas won Game 7. And after this series, Nowitzki would struggle with his shooting. And he would go to the Western Conference semifinals where they were matched up against the Phoenix Suns, his old teammate, Steve Nash. And the Suns won the last 2 games. And in Game 6, which was the Mavericks' loss in overtime, Nowitzki was not at his best. He only scored 28 points, and he was only 9 of 25 from the field goal attempts. And he missed all 5 shots in overtime. So they got eliminated. And, they're looking like contenders, but just something was missing. And so going into the 05-06 season, they got rid of Michael Finley. And now Nowitzki is the leader of this team. And that former Big Three is gone. There's no more Nash or Finley. Just Nowitzki. And he would average 26.6 points per game, 9 rebounds. And this was his third 2,000-point season. And his field goal shooting will go up too. 48% field goal shooting, 48% from 3. 40% from 3, 90% from the free throw line. And they got a 60-win team that year. And they go all the way to the NBA Finals. And I remember this. This was one of the first NBA Finals that I watched, I was real young when this was going on. And I remember cheering for Dirk Nowitzki against the Miami Heat. And they had a pretty cool run. They beat the San Antonio Spurs and the Phoenix Suns, 2 of their enemies, and now they're in the finals. And it's kind of sad because, again, I don't like to put asterisks on stuff. I really don't. But the Mavericks, they blew a 2-0 lead to the Miami Heat. To be honest, the Dallas Mavericks should have won the 2006 NBA Finals. And it doesn't stop there. This would definitely lead to Dirk's reputation as being a loser. In the 06-07 season, he would have his best season yet. He'd win MVP that year. He'd get his 50-40-90 season. He would lead the Mavericks to 67 wins, which is a franchise record. Like I said, he averaged 50% from the field, 41% from 3, and 90% from the free throw line. And this is a new big three. Josh Howard and Jason Terry were his second best players. They had guys like Jerry Stackhouse, Devin Harris. But they lost in the first round to the 8th seeded team, the Golden State Warriors, who only won 42 games that year. So again, Dirk Nowitzki chokes. And it doesn't stop there. Going into the 07-08 season, they had another first-round playoff exit. And this is when you would start to see glimpses of their later championship team. Like, this is when they got Jason Kidd. And, yeah, I'll just leave it at that for that season. Now, the 08-09 season saw Nowitzki finish with averages of 25.9 points per game, 8.4 rebounds, 2.4 assists. He was 4th in the league in scoring, and he was All-NBA first-team selection. Now, again, they would blow it in 08-09 because despite their 50-32 record, they would lose in the second round to the Denver Nuggets. I remember I really liked this Mavs team, you know. Jason Terry, Jason Kidd, Dirk Nowitzki. It was a great team. Josh Howard. It was a great team. Now going into the 09-10 season, this would be another disappointing year. They would have a good regular season. They finished the 09-10 season as the second seed for the 2010 NBA playoffs. And they added All-Star Sean Marion. They added Caron Butler during the second half of the season. And he hit his 20,000 point milestone. And the Mavericks faced off against the San Antonio Spurs in the first round. But they lost to the Spurs. Nowitzki became a free agent after that season, but he was loyal to the soil. He signed a 4-year, $80 million deal to remain in Dallas. And I remember the narrative back then was, Dirk's a great player, but he's never going to win anything. He chokes in the big ones. You know, he can't win these big playoff games. Now, I think a lot of their problem, and they would fix it, was interior depth. They didn't have a good post defender. And they would go out and they would trade for Tyson Chandler. And Nowitzki was injured in the middle of the season for the 10-11 season. But he finished the regular season with averages of 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. Despite missing 9 games, Nowitzki was selected to All-Star game for the 10th time. The Mavericks defeated the Portland Trailblazers in the first round of the playoffs and swept the 2-time defending champion Lakers. I remember back then, this is when I was like, oh damn, Dirk is on a mission. And the next round, they defeated the Oklahoma City Thunder with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. You know? And they would win that in 5 games. Now, they would go to the NBA Finals in 2011. And this was the best Miami Heat team. They added, well, in history at this point, they added LeBron James and Chris Bosh. And this is a rematch of 2006. And I don't remember anyone thinking the Mavs had a chance. And it was awesome to see this. Nowitzki, although he was dealing with injuries, he had a torn tendon in his left middle finger, and he vowed that this injury is not going to be a factor, I remember. And in Game 2, he led Dallas to an 88-73 fourth quarter deficit, making a driving left-hand layup over Bosch to tie the series at 1. Miami took a 2-1 series lead after Nowitzky missed a potential game-tying shot at the end of Game 3, despite carrying a 101-degree fever. And this is something that gets forgotten, is, you all remember Michael Jordan's flu game. But what about Dirk Nowitzky's, And I remember during this time, there's a video of it where LeBron and Dwayne Wade were mocking Dirk. They were imitating a cough, And this pissed Dirk off. And they would go on and win the next 2 games, with Nowitzky scoring 10 fourth quarter points in the series, clinching the game in Miami. The championship was the first in the history of the franchise. Nowitzky was named NBA Finals Most Valuable Player, and it came at the expense of the most hated team in NBA history, and it changed the perception of Dirk. Unfortunately, they were never able to win it back or run it back. They'd have some other good stars around them later. Peja Stojakovic was there. Vince Carter played there. And he would actually play quite a few seasons after this. But they're not really worth talking about because they didn't have much playoff success. His last season would be the 18-19 season, which was, coincidentally enough, Dwayne Wade, his rival's final season. And the Mavs weren't even in playoff contention. But I think what made this great was Dirk was able to play with Luka Doncic, who's the Mavs' current star. Luka got to play his rookie season with Dirk, which I think was great. I remember loving that. And Luka had a great rookie season, 21 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Dirk only averaged 7 points, but he got to mentor him, and he got to have a farewell tour. And he retired after that season. And Dirk is a really humble dude, He now is actually has a job with the Dallas Mavericks. He's their special advisor. He's a mentor to Luka Doncic and all these young players on the team. He's married. He's got a couple kids. I don't remember how many kids he has, but he's a very humble guy. Very kind, family-oriented man. And let's talk about his accolades, right? He's got 31,516 career points, which I believe he's 5th. I want to say 5th or 6th all-time scoring list. He's a 14-time All-Star, 2011 NBA champion, 12-time All-NBA, 2007 MVP, 2011 Finals MVP, and he's on the NBA 75th anniversary team. So that is Dirk Nowitzky. Thanks for watching.